Quarterbacks, week 16, 11 games. Up top, you got Josh Allen, 14-point favorite. I'm almost tempted to bet the Patriots here.
I see that.
Coming
You
off a
know,
big defining win against the Lions.
this would be infinitely worse if they weren't coming home. If they had to go to Foxborough here, this would be a nut low spot.
Totally agree. Jalen Hurts, he had a quote after the game where they asked him about finally getting the passing game going. He said, "Just because we don't mean we can't, don't mean me. Just because we don't mean we can't." And I thought that was great. I thought it was great. It's true as well. You got him against Washington this week that almost blew that game to the Saints. Joe Burrow, not the easiest matchup, but Cleveland may have put a bow on it. They may have their bags packed after that game against Pittsburgh. Jameis got benched. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is no better. I'd consider Joe Burrow, but I'm also considering some of these cheaper options at quarterback because we're going to want to pay up at some skill position spots. So give me your top guys up at the top tier at wide quarterback this week.
I mean, honestly, broken record, and I really should start listening to myself because on Tuesdays I recommend Josh Allen every week, and then on Sundays I'm playing like Aiden O'Connell or something stupid. Josh Allen's out of control, and it just seems that there's no way to stop him. And the interesting thing is they can't stop because they need these wins. So it's not a situation where it's like, well, we got like Mahomes, with his ankle and whatnot. Maybe they pick, but like the Bills are chasing still. And it just feels inevitable that Josh Allen, if you have the money and value opens up, I don't think you can set it high enough at this point. He's an awkward build because it's getting crazy now. He's got a rushing touchdown in 5 straight games, and he has 8 rushing touchdowns in the last 5 games. That's insane. I don't know what you do about that. It has to be him.
They've really turned it up with him as far as rushing goes. We've
This is a
talked
new
about it.
level.
What's that?
This is a new level of Josh Allen. You get into the red zone now, and it's just okay. We're going just Josh Allen beast mode.
Yeah. Why not? They have the Patriots, and then they have the Jets at home, Patriots at home, and then Patriots in Foxborough. The Chiefs, on the other hand, their schedule to close out the year. I was looking at this for my video today. They have the Texans, they have the Steelers in Pittsburgh, and the Broncos in Denver. And the Broncos in that game, I think the Broncos are going to need that game. So much tougher schedule. I also think Patrick Mahomes ends up playing this week.
I do too. I don't really get it.
He plays through everything. This guy remember against Jacksonville in the postseason 2 years ago when they won the Super Bowl? He had a high ankle sprain against Jacksonville. And it's like, man, this is going to be tough. Plays the next week against Cincinnati, wins, re-aggravates the high ankle sprain, grade 3 high ankle in the Super Bowl, and still wins the game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. He's incredible. I'm not obviously going to play him, but up top,
he's not even on this slate.
Well, that makes it even harder to play him. But Josh Allen, I just give me Josh Allen until further notice.
I hear you. I'm with you 100%. Josh Allen's the guy up top. I like Hurts here as well, but this could also just be a Saquon game, right? For sure. This could be a big time Saquon game. And I'm a fan of Joe Burrow. But like you said, it's Josh Allen. He's so expensive though. And here's the other question though. Do you just run Josh Allen naked at this point?
You can, clearly.
Well, do you really want to try and figure out the attachment from Kincaid to Shakir to maybe Amari Cooper gets back in the mix? Maybe they're throwing touchdowns to Ray Davis. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you played Joe Burrow against Detroit, would you have wanted to stack him with anybody unless you played him with James Cook?
Yeah, I mean, the way he's running right now, obviously that's taking care of everything. I still don't think you have to do it that way, but Josh Allen is superseding all the rules right now. It's
all I'm saying is that each week you aren't getting these blow up performances from pass catchers when Josh Allen goes crazy. Like you could have played Ty Johnson with him, but that speaks even more to what I'm saying, right? Like Ty Johnson was the best skill position player on the team last game.
Yeah, I mean, he has a cast of weapons around him that are, I mean, Amari Cooper had 0 targets.
I know.
So that just shows you the risk you're taking. And a guy like Shakir was solid, but not solid in the sense of like tournament winning solid. So yeah, I get it, but I still think there's going to be games where some of the production consolidates. So it's hit or miss. You don't need to stack him. And if you do, it's probably skinny at this point.
Jeremy, I agree. If I'm doing it, it would be Khalil Shakir with
I
him.
agree.
Yeah. Mid tier, it's probably going to be Kyler for me. That team continues to disappoint. The problem here is you could also just go with James Conner. That top tier 7K plus is stacked at running back. We'll get there in a minute. You have Brock Purdy against Miami in Florida. That could be a nice spot. I'm actually entertaining that. Sam Darnold is another one against Seattle. I could see that game kind of turning into a shootout, but we don't know if Geno is going to play. If he does, he'll just throw 2 more picks in the red zone. What about, so I have 4 guys that I wrote down. I always, write players down when we do this first look show. I have Darnold, Purdy, Kyler, and Tua. Tua's a 1.5 point home favorite where they've played really well against, San Francisco, who's coming off really an embarrassing loss where they should have won that game at home. They lose 12-6. There isn't a touchdown scored. I think it's Kyler for me here, though.
Kyler, I mean, he makes a ton of sense. A lot of this will have to do with ownership. I'm going to try to buy low on Tua if it still permits ownership wise. It's going to have to be that he's thrown the ball 40 plus times in 4 straight. I can't stress how awful he was against Houston. He was horrendous. They were horrendous, and they are basically cooked at this point. So
another spot where they should have won that game.
It's bad. That guy's a goblin too. Their coach, I'm a big fan of his too, but
I'm not.
He got figured out.
Tua
I still think
completely cost them that game.
He was awful. He was awful. But at the same time, if you're going to tell me that I could get the same Miami stack for a little cheaper and no ownership at home, when a lot of these games are going to be in cold, nasty weather, yeah, I'd entertain that. It's not a range I like. I would rather pay up or pay down. I don't like the mid range this week.
I'll tell you what. My guess is Jalen Waddle doesn't play.
That makes it even easier.
That's what I'm saying. Tyreek Hill is sub 7K. You have Jonnu Smith, who is 5,200, 5,500. This guy just continues to get peppered. I mean, continues to score touchdowns. He has 5 touchdowns over his last 5 games, Ben. He's probably been, him and Brock Bowers have been the 2 tight ends over the last month and a half, the 2 best tight ends. I will say, though, just since we're talking about Tua, I still think it's going to be tough for me to get to Devon H.N. He's sandwiched in between Gibbs and Kyron and James Conner and Chase Brown, who's playing 95% of snaps. Like I think he might be the odd man out for me. And that's difficult because he's a great pass catching back.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's going to take some massaging to make this work with some of the price points, some of the roles, but on the outside with Tyreek, Jonnu, Tua, you can make it work. And I even potentially some punts that could fill in for Waddle, I don't think is crazy to entertain.
So is Tua your guy then?
In the mid range. I don't like the mid range, but yeah, I'm going to go with Tua.
Okay. And then maybe like a Malik Washington would be a nice.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's not impossible.
I'll go Kyler, but it's Kyler and Tua for me is the 1 and 2. I'd go Purdy 3, Darnold 4. Low tier, maybe our friend Andy Francis. I do a show with Andy over on his channel each Thursday, and he talks sometimes about there's tanking and then there's throwing caution to the wind. And I actually agree with him 100%. Where certain teams are out of it, it doesn't mean you're just going to sit everybody and stop playing. They might just play more loose. And that is what we saw from the Jets. That's the best we've seen this Jets offense in 16 weeks, Ben. In 4 months, right? There's 3 months? 3 months, whatever it may be. That's the best we've seen him. And looking at someone like Rodgers, someone asked about him. I said he could, but he doesn't really have much rushing upside. He hasn't been good. This guy rushed for almost 50 yards last game. They might just be playing loose now. And I'll tell you, I actually have a little bit of interest here against the Rams. Maybe it'll come back to bite me. I'm not trying to chase that last game. I'm trying to chase the way that they played. The way that they played loose, the way that Rodgers just kind of reckless abandon took off. Devontae Adams looked like his former self. Do we get a replication of that? Probably not. You don't need something insane. If Adams had almost 200 yards, 45 DraftKings points. I'm not going to rule Rodgers out in this spot against the Rams. Could end up being a pretty fun game.
Definitely not going to rule him out, but I also, and I missed on him completely last week. I'll take the L there.
So did I.
I do think, like most things with results, it was probably a pretty run hot situation. He threw the ball 30 times. Not great. He had 16 completions for 289 yards. Are you kidding me?
Yep.
He had 45 yards rushing on the season. On the entire season, he had about 60 yards rushing. So a lot of things broke that way in that game. I get it. I'm going to stick with Drake May. I'm playing Drake May forever. I don't care.
Okay, so play from behind style, divisional game.
Drake May, it seems like in any scenario, he gives you some potential. If he's playing from ahead or he keeps the game close, it's going to be because of Drake May. Against Arizona, they played from behind and nothing went right. And he still got you at 5,600. And I'm not saying it was perfect, but he got you 18. He scored on the ground. He did not have the volume I wanted. And New England's a mess. Unless the weather is like disgustingly bad, I think Drake May is in a fine spot once again at 5,800.
I like it. I said this to you on last Tuesday, that perfect spot to bet the Cowboys because the Panthers, who have been
that was
terrible.
Bad bet of mine.
What's that?
Oh, yeah, but no, go ahead.
Would you take the Panthers?
I had the Panthers. Yeah, it was a stupid bet.
I mean, they were favored.
I know.
Did you get them at least at 2.5 and not 3?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
It was just whatever. It doesn't matter.
What I was saying is that you had all of these games against the Chiefs, against the Bucks, against the Eagles, right? Like all of these games where they came so close to winning. They beat the Saints, they beat the Giants in Germany, but they had all these games that are so close to winning. It was just too perfect for them to come back down to earth against a bad football team. Like all the stars align for them to be so competitive week in and week out against good football teams. The moment you're a favorite for the first time in 33 games in 2 calendar years, no surprise. Like, okay, the Cowboys come in and mop up and they go back to being shitty. I'm willing to take some shots on like Bryce Young and Chuba and Thielen this week. This is where everyone finally goes, all right, fuck it. I'll bet the Panthers. You know, I've been betting against them. They've been killing me every week. And when I bet on them earlier in the year, they lost. I bet against them against the good teams as 14-point dogs. They covered. Now I'm bought in. And now everybody's back out. Now this is more from a betting perspective, right? Than it is from a DFS standpoint. Because everybody's going to be out on the Panthers again. They burned them after they've been burned all year long, no matter what they do. But I think this is just one of those spots where they come in and they play loose again, potentially, where it's like, who cares anymore? Who cares? We're not favored. We're dogs against the team that's trying to make a run into the playoffs. And with Xavier Legette out, I don't think the Bryce Young, Adam Thielen stack is all that insane this week. You get them dirt cheap.
All right, yeah, you get them dirt cheap. And yeah, they're not to go on. Just to add to that, there is a difference. And I'm a big advocate of this, which is why I'm disappointed that I actually bet them. There's a really big difference in playing up to competition than when you're the favorite.
Exactly.
Not just in football, but in all sports. Like, yep. I see this all the time in college basketball. These teams, they're like 30-point underdog, and they lose by 12. They lose by 8. They lose by 11. And it's like, man, they're going to be pretty good. First home game, they're playing this garbage team. They're 7-point favorites. And you just lose because you're not used to winning. You're used to just like, it's just different.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. You have no pressure when you're the 14-point dog on the road. None at all. 100% agree.
So I get it.
Barry said, Chuba killed me too. Yeah, me too, but I'll go right. The guy played every snap. Who cares? You know, it is what it is. It was a tough game. Um, Rico Dowdle didn't help me out and they won that game. So whatever.
No.
But
Richardson is right next to him. I think that's another really good spot.
he
He's on the
stinks.
list for me.
They all stink. I hear you though. I hear you. I would go if Jameis starts, I would honestly consider him against Cincinnati.
I get it. So you can take this one of two ways.
He might
One,
just get benched again though.
he definitely might, but you have to look at it. Yeah, actually though with Jameis, normally I would say it doesn't matter because if he plays well, that's what you need, and he's not going to get benched if he plays well. But the problem with Jameis is they actually can coexist. Like he might throw 2 pick-sixes and play well, and you may never get the well because he threw the pick-sixes first.
Yep, agreed. I'll give you one more, and I'll make this my guy here. Mac Jones.
Ooh.
Listen, Brian Thomas is phenomenal.
He's amazing.
Brian Thomas is still underpriced. Evan Ingram is on the IR. Brenton Strange had 12 targets and 11 receptions last game. If you wanted to run this stack against the Raiders, by the way, this is the Raiders. And I'm by the way, I'm a bigger fan of Mac Jones than most people. I don't think he's good. I don't think he's I think Mac Jones is still leaps and bounds better than Desmond Ridder, if you want me to put it in perspective for you.
I mean, yeah, I would. Yes.
What I'm saying is that Mac Jones isn't good, but he's not like bottom tier bad to the point where he shouldn't even be out there at all. He's not a bad backup. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, Brian Thomas is 6,300. Mac Jones is 5,200. Brenton Strange is 3,500. If you played a cheap defense, just I'll throw in Bears for whatever it's worth, you have 6,600 per player remaining. That's beautiful.
I mean, the Mac Jones stack made people crazy money last week. Crazy money.
Yeah.
If you went there. So I get
hate to try and recreate that magic because it doesn't happen often, but it is a good matchup.
Oh, it's definitely a good matchup. It's a good range. That's why I said I don't like the mid-range because I like Richardson. I like Drake May. I like Mac Jones. I think is fine. And honestly, even Bryce Young, I think there's some interest there. Will you play DTR?
No,
okay.
I think he's just terrible.
Yeah, I just don't see why you would do that. This is the other side of you can bring the graphic up, but I'm not advocating for this. This is the other side of a Megamind Genius play. It would just be stupid is the word you're looking for. Who in their right mind would play Cousins?
I can't do it right now.
He's in a dream spot though.
He is, but I also think that I would just load up on Bijan. And I think a lot of people will. Don't get me wrong.
That's what I'm planning to do. Or even a weapon. I just can't play Kirk Cousins. It's so close to being a genius play, but it's just stupid.
I hear you. He also was in a dream spot yesterday against the Raiders. That's a good matchup. And he was terrible. They lost Max Crosby for the season.
I bet the over for these reasons.
Yeah, I hear you. Terrible. Give me Mac Jones. Why not? That stack is so cheap. Give me Mac Jones. You're going Drake May?
I'm gonna go Drake May again. I think Richardson's probably the easy pay down option, but I'll live a little and I do think the ceiling's probably a little dangerous with him, but yeah, you can navigate it.
And by the way, the reason I wouldn't want to go DTR is because at least with Jameis you have that ceiling. We haven't seen any glimpse of ceiling in any of the games Dorian Thompson-Robinson has played this year. Or sorry, played at all.